Welcome back to the OHIO podcast, everybody. I'm your host, Buckeye Buggs. That man over there is the wild man, Chris Wilds, and that man over there is Sergeant MVP Aaron Brown. And you are you, and we're so thankful to have you with us again tonight as we preview the biggest game so far on Ohio State's schedule. It is number, I think we're 6th or 7th in the AP right now, Ohio State, and Notre Dame's ninth?
Yep.
So this is a big one, top 10 matchup on the road in South Bend. This is a big game, not only for us, but also for them. Their fan base is riled up, which I hope you all got to see that video with John Kennedy from Always Irish. If you haven't, go back and watch that. You'll see it right there on our YouTube page. Speaking of YouTube, please give this video a thumbs up, like, and share. That really does help out the channel. And if you haven't already, what are you doing? Subscribe for this thing. Ring the bell so you get notified every time. My goodness. What are you, crazy? Also, we're on Twitter, formerly known as Twitter, X, which apparently now that we're going to be charged for here real soon. X at the Ohio Podcast, the Ohio Podcast, and we are at the Ohio Pod. I guess I should get that straight. At Facebook at the Ohio Podcast, and we are the official OHIO or Ohio State podcast of Fansided Scarlet and Game. Go in there, search that on Google, Scarlet and Game. Articles pop up by myself and other great writers. Read about Ohio State every single day. And we are also the official Ohio State podcast of Big Banter Sports. Go to bigbantersports.com, and there you will see all 14 podcasts from Big Ten teams, including ours right here. Guys, let's go ahead and dive into tonight's show by breaking down some history, some stats, some film, and then we'll give our predictions tonight. So let's go with up first. How about this? Just so everybody's aware of what's going on. This Saturday, 7:30, NBC. That's where you can find this game. You'll find it on NBC, 7:30 p.m. Don't want to miss that. Here is Ohio State, Notre Dame by the numbers. This is game number 8 in the series. Ohio State leads the series 5-2. The Buckeyes have won 5 in a row. Last loss to Notre Dame was in 1936. Chris, that's even older than you, buddy.
I was going to ask him, what was that year like?
Last meeting in Columbus was, of course, last year. Ohio State won that game 21-10. Last meeting in South Bend was 1996. I think we all remember that one. Even young Aaron, who was probably, 5th grade?
I was actually 8 years old. I was in 2nd grade.
Oh, my gosh, 2nd grade.
Yeah, but I remember it.
29-16 was that victory. Largest margin of victory happened the year before in the Horseshoe in 1995. We won by 19 points. And then the largest margin of defeat was that 1936 loss. It was by 5 points. Obviously, we just said the longest win streak over Notre Dame is 5. Notre Dame's longest win streak over us was the first 2. And there's something interesting about that. One of those losses, I believe it was the first one. Ohio State actually had the lead. They took out their starters before the start of the 4th quarter, and the rules back then were you were not allowed to go back into the game if you were taken out. So we did not have our starters in the 4th quarter, and they came back and beat us. Crazy. Ryan Day's record against Notre Dame is 1-0. Marcus Freeman's record against his alma mater, Ohio State, is 0-1. Speaking of those 7 games, here's how they looked. 18-13 in 1935. Look at that score, 1936. Woo, what a doozy. 7-2. My goodness.
Solid.
Sounds like an Iowa game.
I was going to say, is Kirk Ferentz involved in this?
He might have been. He might have been. He would.
He was actually a grad assistant at the time.
I was going to say.
Oh, gosh. 1995, 45-26. That was the big one. 96, 29-16. 2006, that was the bowl game in 2006 when A.J. Hawk put Brady Quinn in the hospital just about. 34-20. We saw the 2016 game also. That one was in Glendale, Arizona, 44-28. And 2022, that was last year, 21-10. Chris, Break down some statistics for us. You want to start with Ohio State or Notre Dame?
Let's start with Ohio State, Eric. And Ohio State comes in the 21st ranked offense, averaging 494.7 yards per game. They have the 16th best passing attack in the nation at 318 yards per game. That, of course, is led by Kyle McCord. McCord is 53 of 76, 815 yards, 6 touchdowns, and an interception on the year. They have the 66th best rushing attack in the nation at 156.7 yards per game. The rushing duties have been heavy with Travion Henderson this year. 30 rushes, 191 yards, 4 touchdowns. Receiving, we've had Marvin Harrison lead the way receiving with 14 catches, 304 yards, 21.7 yards per catch, 3 touchdowns. And of course, opposite him is Emeka Egbuka, 12 receptions, 167 yards, and 3 touchdowns. But guys, we are not all offense this year. Ohio State actually comes in with the second ranked overall defense in the nation, only allowing 223.6 yards per game, 140.3 pass yards, which is 7th, 83.3 rushing yards, which is 20th. And guys, maybe most impressive, Ohio State is allowing only a whopping 6.7 points per game. So what we're talking about there is under a touchdown per game. That is a beautiful thing to see. Now, I will acknowledge our friends at Notre Dame have looked quite impressive on the way to being 4-0. They've handled easily Navy, Tennessee State, North Carolina State, and Central Michigan. Notre Dame is the 16th ranked offense in the nation. They're averaging 508.8 yards per game. They're 20th in passing at 304.3 yards per game. Of course, that's led by Sam Hartman. The transfer has completed 64 of 90 passes for 1,061 yards and 13 touchdowns without an interception. They actually have the 26th best rushing attack in the nation at 204.5 yards per game. Now, Audric Estime, thank you. Well, as you know, Eric, we are uncultured swine here.
That is facts. Hashtag facts.
Send it.
Audric Estime has 63 carries for 521 yards, 5 touchdowns. The receiving is led by Chris Tyree with 8 receptions for 216 yards, 2 touchdowns. The receptions leader is Jaden Thomas. He has 12 receptions for 188 yards, 1 touchdown. And guys, don't sleep on that tight end. Holden Stoss only has 6 catches for 123 yards, but guys, of those 6 catches, 4 of them have been touchdowns. So he is a go-to guy in that red zone. Defensively, hey, Notre Dame's not looking too bad on defense either. They are 4th in total defense, allowing 234.2 points per game. They're 4th best against the pass, only allowing 126.8 yards per game, only surrendering 107.5 rushing yards per game. They're 15th in scoring defense at 11.8 points per game. So overall, I think 2 very similar offenses, 2 very similar defenses. Something has got to give this weekend. Now, I didn't really break down the defensive stats per se, just because, guys, with the exception of the tackles leader, which Jack Kaiser leads Notre Dame with 26 tackles. Tommy Two Thumbs has 20 for Ohio State. Guys, it is just a group effort. Ohio State has, 6 guys with a sack? 1 sack. No one has more than 1 sack on either team. 3 interceptions for Ohio State, all by different players. Forced fumbles. We've got 4, all by different players. And you look at Notre Dame, and it's the same thing. As I mentioned, Jack Kaiser's their big tackle guy, but they have 5 sacks, 5 different guys. They've got 4 interceptions, 4 different guys. So this is a real group effort on both defenses. So I think we're just going to have to see how it plays out.
Taking the stats and the history into account, Aaron, can you glean anything from that as far as what we can expect moving forward in this game?
I think it's just going to come down to the matchup between the lines, the experience factor between, or the experience difference between Hartman and McCord is going to play a factor as well. And it depends on if our defensive line can finally get home. They did quite well against Western Kentucky, but they're not Notre Dame. And as some of the clips, or one of the clips that I show in the film breakdown, prove they're not bulletproof. They're not 10 feet tall. Hartman can get got. All right.
Mm-hmm.
We just have to get there. And the clip I showed was actually uh, North Carolina State's interior, which just so happens to be our strength on the D line, getting the job done. Secondary is also going to be a huge, huge factor. They're going to have to maintain their level of play.
Chris, after breaking down all of those statistics, do you feel that there's an advantage one way or the other?
Well, this is the thing for me, Eric, and um, in deep diving into these numbers, each of these teams has put up some pretty lofty numbers. Do you know that neither team has, as we've talked about, off the podcast here, more than one win against an FBS school? I mean, so really, I don't think we have really seen either of these teams challenged. What I will say is, I feel like Ohio State's a little bit better prepared to face a top quality quarterback, having faced the young man from Western Kentucky last week, who is a legitimate NFL talent. So,
Austin Reed. Austin
Austin
Reed, yeah.
Reed, yes.
Yep.
I feel that they actually have an advantage having faced a legitimate passing attack.
Mm.
Uh, I know that two of the teams which Notre Dame faces do not even average like 100 a game or yards a game passing. So I think it's going to be something for them to see. If we see the Kyle McCord we saw against Western Kentucky, I kind of feel like that's advantage Ohio State. I really do. Um, I guess we just have to wait and see. My gut instinct tells me though, our defense has the advantage having played against a top-notch quarterback.